And we're back with another exciting NFTGL 30 preseason power ranking. And today, we're going to talk about the St. Louis Rams. That's right, Dan's St. Louis Rams. Part 2. So, like the other videos, we're going to jump in first with the transactions that the St. Louis Rams have made this iteration. They did not have any handicap modifications to their roster, so they started with the base St. Louis Rams in their first season. At the end of that season, they traded away Chris Miller for Stan Humphries, which has been a tried and true near auto trade in the NFTGL and in TSB3. They also traded Anthony Newman for Gene Atkins, which was a trade that had been done previously in the NFTGL, but hadn't been done in over 20 seasons. So Dan brought that back, and that's a pretty big upgrade for the team. In Season 2, they traded Chris Spielman away for Dante Jones, which they landed Chris Spielman previously in Season 1, I believe, in free agency. So that was a big move. The one big thing that St. Louis has always lacked is an elite level linebacker, and Dante Jones is certainly that. And then coming into Season 3, they only successfully landed one trade, but that trade was Johnny Bailey for Rod Bernstein, giving St. Louis even more of an impressive running backfield. Free agency-wise, they've dropped Joe Kelly, Leo Goes, Roman Pfeiffer, Tony Zendahas, Irv Eatman, who they previously picked up, Toby Wright, and Carlos Jenkins. And they signed Chris Spielman, Irv Eatman, Joe Kelly, John Casey, which is a big upgrade at kicker, Wally Williams, Barry Minter, and Dedrick Dodge. And no one is ever really excited about a Dedrick Dodge signing, but you do what you got to do. So let's talk about the Rams. The Rams are a relatively unique team in that they have more play-action plays in their playbooks. You can see they've got two. They've got 2 in Playbook 1, and then they've got 3 in Playbook 2, giving them 5 play-action passes, which is one more than any other team in the game. There are a number that have 4. St. Louis has 5. So it really enforces St. Louis to be a running first team, but it also kind of puts them in a position where they need to be a score fast and hold the lead kind of team, and they're not as good as a come-from-behind team. So one of the issues that Dan has struggled with is finding functionality in Playbook 2, largely because of all the play-action passes. If he can figure out a way to do that and bring that into the coming season, it should really help his chances. He has made the playoffs in 2 of the last 3 seasons, and that's kind of Dan's bag historically, is he makes the playoffs about 2/3 of the time, but he doesn't often make it past the first round of the playoffs. So we'll see what he can do. He shifted divisions for this iteration, for this season, the final season of the iteration. So he's going to be playing against the Arizona Cardinals, the Atlanta Falcons, and the San Francisco 49ers, which is a pretty tough division. But he does get 2 extra computer games against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to boost him. So he's probably a lock to make the playoffs, as he has had decent success against the teams in this in his new division in previous seasons. But where he goes from there is going to depend on what Dan can bring to the table that's different than what he's brought to the table before, and whether or not he can get those leads and hold them. Recently, you'll see that Dan, in the big games, he, with these Rams, struggles to put more than 14 points on the board in those playoff games, and that's a hard game to win. So if Dan's looking to get further in the playoffs, he needs to figure out a way to make the offense a little bit more threatening, because as always, Dan's defense has always been pretty good, and one of the more aggressive styles of defense. St. Louis is by default kind of a goal line play team because they have the best defensive line in Tecmo Super Bowl 3. So when you play goal line with them, it stands out a bit more, and it allows you to play coverage with Todd Light, who's only an average DB, maybe slightly above average DB, but he plays well. He has decent speed and okay interceptions, which allows him to cover the field long enough for the D-line to do its job on passing plays. And it obviously gives him the advantage trying to stuff the run. So expectations for Dan? I'd love to see him in the Man Bowl. I think everybody in the league would love to see him in the Man Bowl again, and love to see him win a Man Bowl. It just depends on whether or not his desire to win brings to him a desire to, be more prepared coming into the season. We'll see what happens. So there you go. That's it. That's the Rams. We'll see you next time. And as always, we are certain that you would want to get it on with Dan because he's that sexy.